Together we can, united forever, taking a stand as we celebrate each other.
We've got the chance to make a change for the better. Mixing the old with the new, we're breaking through, dedicated for forever.
We're learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve, leaving a mark, breaking the mold, going all in and taking control. Actions speak louder than words. You've got to put in that word. We're out here making heads turn, and together we can change the world. We are the FFA. When we coincide, we all belong, side by side. Yeah, we've grown strong.
Amplify, this is the anthem to our song. Don't hide when we've got the pride. Just look how far we've come along.
We're learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve, leaving a mark, breaking the mold, going all in and taking control. Actions speak louder than words. You've got to put in that word. We're out here making heads turn, and together we can change the world. We are the FFA. Actions speak louder than words. We're out here making heads turn, and together we can change the world. We are the FFA. Actions speak louder than words. You've got to put in that word. We're out here making heads turn, and together we can change the world. We are the FFA. Actions speak louder than words. You've got to put in that word. Together we can, united forever, taking a stand as we celebrate each other.
We've got the chance to make a change for the better. Mixing the old with the new, we're breaking through, dedicated for forever.
We're learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve, leaving a mark, breaking the mold, going all in and taking control. Actions speak louder than words. You've got to put in that word. We're out here making heads turn, and together we can change the world. We are the FFA. When we coincide, we all belong, side by side. Yeah, we've grown strong.
Amplify, this is the anthem to our song. Don't hide when we've got the pride. Just look how far we've come along.
We're learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve, leaving a mark, breaking the mold, going all in and taking control. Actions speak louder than words. You've got to put in that word. We're out here making heads turn, and together we can change the world. We are the FFA. Actions speak louder than words. We're out here making heads turn, and together we
Baby, come give me something, oh. Baby, come give me something, oh. 'Cause I can't stop loving.
Wait.
Renegade,
Go. Got one. Go. Go. Oh. Yeah. Go. Go.
The convention will come to order. We are now holding the third general session of the 93rd Annual South Carolina FFA State Convention. Mr. Vice President, are all officers at their stations?
I shall call the roll of officers, determine if they are at their stations, and report back to you, Madam President.
Stationed by the door. Through this door pass many friends of the FFA. It is my duty to see that the door is open to our friends at all times and that they are welcome. I care for the meeting room and paraphernalia. I strive to keep the room comfortable and assist the President in maintaining order.
The reporter is stationed by the flag. As the flag covers the United States of America, so I strive to inform the people in order that every man, woman, and child may know that the FFA is a national organization that stretches from the state of Alaska to the Virgin Islands and from the state of Maine to Hawaii.
Stationed by the emblem of Washington. I keep an accurate record of receipts and disbursements, just as Washington kept his farm accounts carefully and accurately. I encourage thrift among the members and strive to build up our financial standing through savings and investments. George Washington was better able to serve his country because he was financially independent.
Stationed by the ear of corn. I keep an accurate record of all meetings and correspond with other secretaries wherever corn is grown and FFA members meet.
Here by the owl. The owl is the time-honored emblem of knowledge and wisdom. Being older than the rest of you, I am asked to advise you from time to time as the need arises. I hope that my advice will always be based upon true knowledge and ripened with wisdom. Mr. Vice President, why do you keep a plow at your station?
The plow is a symbol of labor and tillage of the soil. Without labor, neither knowledge nor wisdom can accomplish much. I assist at all times in directing the work of our organization. I preside over the meetings in the absence of our president, whose place is beneath the rising sun. The rising sun is a token of a new era in agriculture. If we follow the leadership of our president, we shall be led out of darkness and selfishness and into the glorious sunlight of brotherhood and cooperation. Madam President, all officers are at their stations.
Thank you. The Secretary will call the roll of members.
There are countless guests, Madam President.
Thank you. FFA members, why are we here? To practice brotherhood, honor agricultural opportunities and responsibilities, and develop those qualities of leadership which an FFA member should possess. May we accomplish our purposes. I now declare this session of the 93rd Annual South Carolina FFA State Convention duly open for the transaction of business and attention to any matter which may properly be presented. Good afternoon, and welcome to the third general session of the 93rd South Carolina FFA State Convention. Your session chair is your Region 2 Vice President, Matthew Brownlee, from the Lawrence FFA chapter. I would like to welcome Matthew to the podium.
I hope you are ready for a very busy but very exciting night. Tonight, we will recognize the hardworking individuals who will be receiving their American or Honorary American FFA degree. Shortly following, we'll hear from two of my teammates, Jake Faulkner and Cooper Brown, as they give their retiring addresses. After that, we will recognize the individuals who have helped us state officers discover and make an impact on South Carolina and in the FFA, our advisors. Then, we will introduce our state stars and announce the individuals who will be receiving the honorary state FFA degrees. Lastly, we will hear an inspiring message from one of the visiting national officers. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the third general session of the 93rd South Carolina FFA State Convention.
Actions speak louder than words, and together we can change the world. We are the FFA.
Next, we would like to recognize the individuals who will be receiving their Honorary American FFA degree at the National Convention in the fall. Nominations for the Honorary American FFA degree must be sent to the State FFA Board of Directors for approval. State staff then approves all applications and send those nominations to the National FFA organization. Our Honorary American degree recipient for 2020 is the Honorable David R. Hyatt. Representative Hyatt is a businessman from Pickens County. He serves as chairman of the House Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Environmental Affairs Committee. Through his role, Representative Hyatt has worked tirelessly advocating for the agricultural industry in South Carolina. He is an avid supporter of the FFA, always taking time out of his schedule to meet with members and discuss agriculture and education in the state whenever asked. Representative Hyatt truly possesses a love for the agricultural industry in South Carolina and recognizes and supports the role the FFA plays in producing future generations of agriculturalists and leaders across our nation. He is a past member of the Pickens County YMCA Board of Directors. He is a member of the Pickens Rotary Club and is a deacon at Pickens First Baptist Church. He is married to Miss Lisa Clamp Hyatt, and they have 2 children. Representative Hyatt is a true friend of the FFA and the agricultural industry. The Honorary American Teacher degree recipient for 2020 is Kellen Hall, agriculture educator and FFA advisor at Marlboro County. Kellen has been teaching at Marlboro County for the past 42 years. He is a past recipient of the Honorary State degree and is an avid outdoorsman and sportsman. In addition, he serves as the advisor for the Marlboro County Farmer and Agribusiness Association chapter. Throughout his career, Mr. Hall has never hesitated to share his wealth of knowledge and experience with new teachers and his talents and skills with the local and state community. He has served the FFA members of the region through planning and conducting multiple regional tractor safety and operation competitions. And during his time in the classroom, Mr. Hall has coached multiple CDE teams that have received state honors, and the students have always been recognized statewide through the FFA. Mr. Hall and his wife reside in Sherrall and have 4 children and 4 grandchildren. He is an exemplary educator and true supporter of the National FFA organization. Congratulations to Representative Hyatt and Mr. Hall. Through their accomplishments, they have proven dedication to agriculture education and our state. Now they are entitled to the honor and privilege which accompanies the Honorary American FFA degree. At this time, I would now like to welcome Mr. Troy Helms for a special introduction.
Hello, South Carolina FFA Association. My name is Troy Helms, and I am here to introduce Jake Faulkner, your state officer, for his retiring address. I am so glad that this year's theme for the state convention is impact. When I think about Jake, I think about the impact that he has made in his community, his school, with me as a teacher, and across the state of South Carolina as he has served as your state officer. John C. Maxwell once said, "Ordinary people with commitment can make an extraordinary impact on their world." And I truly believe that Jake has made a great impact on the state of South Carolina. I know many of you have come across Jake, whether it was at camp or whether it was him visiting your school or maybe even at one of the conventions, and Jake is sure to put a smile on your face. I've known Jake for about 4 years, and we have spent a lot of time together over that 4 years since I've got to know him, from the times where we just sat and talked about what was going on, to the times where he shared his dreams of being a state officer, to the times where we shared a bus in Indianapolis traveling from CDEs back to our hotel. Jake, on that bus, would talk to total strangers and would just put a smile on his face. And to me, the lasting impression that he left with those strangers is the true impact that Jake leaves on everyone. Google's Larry Page said, "My job as a leader is to make sure everybody in the company has great opportunities and that they feel they're having a meaningful impact." I truly feel like this could be one of Jake's mottos. Everyone that he comes into contact with, he has an impact on them, but it is also something that he wants for them to carry back and have an impact on others. Whether it's through kind words, whether it's through words of encouragement, or whether it's just through Jake sharing that smile and joking around with you. So today, South Carolina FFA Association, I am again pleased to announce Jake Faulkner for his retiring address. And what better theme for his retiring address than impact?
All right, everybody, sit down, buckle up, and get ready because we are about to embark on a little journey. About 5 years ago, my church youth group decided we were going to take a beach trip to Cherry Grove. We all drive to the church, load up in the bus, and get ready to go when our youth director, Zach, says, "All right, if I trust any of you guys to get us where we're going, it's Jake." Well, my head swells and I am pumped full of excitement because out of everybody on that trip, Zach chose to trust me. So we leave the church, and about 2 hours into our journey, we start driving through Florence. And about this time, everybody is starting to get pretty hungry. And of course, the only reasonable option for lunch was Chick-fil-A. I quickly end the route on my phone, type in the nearest Chick-fil-A, and pull up the route. Well, lucky for us, it was just 2 minutes down the same road we're already on. I tell Zach, "It's right down this road a little ways to the left." Now that's about as clear as you can give directions, right? Apparently not. Zach immediately gets into the very next left turning lane. And being in downtown Florence, there is no way we're about to get this big old church bus back into main traffic. So we have to turn left and reroute. And reroute. And reroute again because for some reason, Zach just can't follow my directions anymore. Now, after about 15 minutes of detour, we finally make it to the Chick-fil-A, the one that was just 2 minutes away. Have any of you ever experienced anything like this before? A journey that didn't go as planned? I know I have, and not just with driving. You see, life is a journey. Oftentimes, we can be too distracted to pay attention to our surroundings and our experiences to learn from them and learn about ourselves. And other times, we can be too distracted by listening to the directions of others when we should be following our own arrow and our own path. It is important that we pay attention to our surroundings and learn from our experiences to grow as a person. And it is important that we follow our own journey and our own path in life to get to our destinations. One of the greatest destinations that we can get to in life is our career. I remember it like it was yesterday. We were all sitting in Miss Alligood's classroom, and she starts to call the roll and give the directions for the day. All right, class, today we will be conducting some research on agricultural careers. I want each of you to look over lists of different agricultural careers, find one that really speaks to you, do some research on it, type a paper about it, and tell me why you chose that career. Well, I'm so excited and passionate that I jump and run over to the nearest computer before she can even finish giving the directions. I love ag and I want to see what career best suits me. Now, about a month before this assignment, I decided that I need to start thinking about my career. I thought, I love to work with people and I love to see the aha moment when somebody learns something new. And even still, I love history. So I'm going to be a history teacher, right? Well, what about ag? I love ag, and I love teaching, and I love history. But if I teach history, then I can't do anything with ag. And if I get a farm and work the land, then I really don't have enough time to invest in my students as a history teacher. You see, this is where I was at a crossroads. But this assignment really helped me. I was scrolling and scrolling through lists and lists of agricultural careers, and nothing spoke to me. Maybe I shouldn't have anything to do with agriculture. If nothing in agriculture really speaks to me, am I really supposed to do something in agriculture after high school? I tell Miss Alligood, hey, Miss A, I just really can't find anything that sticks out to me. Then the words she says next hit me like a ton of bricks. You know, Jake, I think you would make a great ag teacher. What? An ag teacher? Huh? Who would have ever thought that teaching ag was a career option? Not this guy. I thought about it very deeply. And I reflected on it for the rest of the day because I could not shake the thought of what she said. Well, maybe you should be an ag teacher. You see, as an ag teacher, I would get to do something with ag, which I'm very passionate about. I would get to teach students and work with people. And I would get to see the aha moment that I love so greatly. But what about history? Is that gone? After a lot of reflection, I realized that the FFA and agriculture both have very rich histories that I could teach to my students. You see, it's realizations like these, like me realizing that maybe I should teach ag. These are what I like to call learning moments. Learning moments are when you pay attention to your journey so far to see what got you where you are today. And it could even show you where your next steps may lead. Learning moments are important because it can teach you so much more about yourself than you even realize. One of the most important learning moments that ever happened to me was realizing that I am going to be an agricultural educator after high school and after college. These learning moments give you a glimpse of your future as well as a glimpse of your past. They teach you about who you are. How will you make an effort to pay attention to these learning moments in your life? And how will you pay attention to these learning moments and your experiences to learn more about yourself and grow and be the best version of you that you can be? Another big realization that I had in my life was that I love bluegrass music. Bluegrass music means so much to me. When I was 15, I decided to join a little band in my community. We started out playing in nursing homes for older members of our community who enjoyed the music. We slowly got bigger and bigger until one day we got a call from Mike Neese. He's the director of the Indian Land Fall Festival. He called us and he said, "Hey, what do you guys think about playing an hour-and-a-half set at this year's Indian Land Fall Festival?" This was huge. An hour and a half is a full set. And the Indian Land Fall Festival brings in at least 7,000 visitors each year. So of course, I'm very nervous. And I practice until my fingers rub raw from playing the music way too much. It probably wasn't good for me, but I was so stressed. Well, the day finally comes, and we start to play. About halfway through our show, my nerves begin to calm, and I realize that enjoying playing the music is what's important here. I ended up having more fun for the second half of the show because I embraced the music and embraced the show. Now, after the show was over, we started packing up our things and leaving, and I ran into a few friends from school. And they kind of said some rude and judgmental things to me. Now, some things were pretty simple, like, whoa, I didn't know you played bluegrass. But other things were kind of mean, like, wow, why do you even play that? Nobody really likes that music anymore. Now, I knew that they didn't mean anything by it, so I took everything with a grain of salt. I just explained myself to them and embraced who I was as a bluegrass musician and a bluegrass fan. Have any of you guys ever recognized these parts in your life where you're living in the shadows of the majority and where you're different from other people? I know I have. You see, there are several things in my life that set me apart from other people. I'm a Christian. I love to learn. I'm gay. And I love bluegrass. These things are part of who we are. It's part of our identity. I remember growing up, I would always hide parts of my life when I wanted to fit in and be cool. When being a Christian wasn't cool, I would hide that part of my life deep down inside. And when my friends would talk about music, I had to act like I knew who or what they were talking about just so I could fit in. And I didn't want them to judge me because of my taste in music. You see, these are the parts of my life where I live in the shadows of the majority. But these are also the parts in your life where you can choose to step out into the light. I chose to step out into the light one day and be Jake Faulkner, the young man who is a Christian, the young man who is gay, the young man who loves bluegrass music, and the young man who loves to learn. What parts of your life are you living in the shadows of the majority? You must think about this, reflect on this, and then accept yourself and embrace yourself and step into the light. So that way you can be the best version of yourself that you can be. You see, when you reflect on your life and your journey so far, you can learn more about yourself. And when you have learned more about yourself, you can embrace yourself for who you are. Life is a journey. It is the journey to being you. It's this journey that teaches you so much about yourself and about your experiences and about who you are meant to be. It's this journey where you should follow your own path and be your own self and be the best version of yourself. So that way you can live life the way you were made to. Make sure you pay attention to the learning moments in your life and make sure you embrace yourself and follow your own journey. FFA members and guests, follow the journey to being you.
To our Chick-fil-A loving, bluegrass singing guy, thank you so much for always being the friend that we can talk to about anything and always listening to us. Thank you for sharing your grandpa wisdom with us. We love you so much. Love always, Cooper, Kylie, Matthew, Sydney, and Virginia. South Carolina FFA, your state vice president, Jake Faulkner.
Our success could not be achievable without constant encouragement from those around us. One specific group of people have touched our lives tremendously and shaped us into the individuals capable of touching others' lives just the same. There will never be enough words or thank yous to express our gratitude toward these people. Behind every successful FFA member is a strong advisor, and we are so happy to introduce ours. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored and privileged to introduce to you a major part of our success, our FFA advisors.
Mr. Derrick, you came to Wagner Sally High School when I was a sophomore. I still remember looking at you and saying, you won't make it here. Well, I was wrong. Even though we didn't have much classroom time together, we still have a lot of memories. Building chairs, long car rides, your corny jokes, and seeing your wrestling moves. Thank you for everything you have done for the FFA, my family, and myself. Love, Cooper. Mr. Busby, boy oh boy, time flies, doesn't it? It seems like it was just yesterday. I was in your first class ever. I was sitting in the front desk, listening to you, and boom, now you're here, listening to me. How the tables have turned. I had someone ask me one time why I wanted to become an agriculture teacher, and the only response I could think of is I wanted to have an impact on students, as you impacted mine and many others. You and I have really seen it all. Some secret sauce, a lot of the Suwannee River, some bicycle wrecks, plenty of Chinese buffets, some laughs, and a lot of arguments. Thank you for everything you have done. Thank you for everything you've done for our chapter and the continual support of the FFA. With that being said, thank you, Mr. Busby. Love, Cooper.
Miss Alligood, thank you for being my FFA mom. Ever since my first day in your classroom, you have inspired me to follow my passions. Not only did you teach me about agriculture, but you taught me how to be a leader. From all of the road trips, to the conversations, to the wonderful memories, I have learned what I want to do for the rest of my life. You have inspired me to be an agriculture teacher and FFA advisor. Without your guidance and friendship, I would have never made it this far in life. Thank you for everything. Miss Holly, though our time was shortened to only one semester, I thoroughly enjoyed learning from you. You showed me a different perspective on FFA and Ag Ed, which only fueled my passions even more and built our friendship along the way. Thank you for everything, and I'm so glad you made it back to Indian Land. Love, Jake.
I am so lucky to have had not one, not two, but 3 amazing ag teachers and FFA advisors in high school. You all have taught me so much. Miss Hidalgo, or Miss Jones as I better know you by, some of my favorite ag class memories are in your classroom, either working with dogs, working with some really cool lab equipment, or going and visiting horses. You always gave maximum effort to make sure that we had the best equipment, the most fun activities, and learned everything we possibly could. Thank you for teaching me the importance of punctuality and always doing what you love. Thank you for everything you have done for me. Mr. Asbill, you were my very first ag teacher, and I thank you so much for taking me in and helping me discover my passion for agriculture and the FFA. I will never forget all of the CDEs we trained for and trips we took together, along with your jokes and many personal concerts. Thank you for always checking up on me and holding me accountable to be my absolute best. I can't tell you how much you mean to me. Mr. Socks, I don't even know where to begin. You have made such an impact on me in so many ways and have really made me who I am today. You have invested so much into me, and you saw my potential long before I did. Thank you for all the long talks, quick way trips, countless advice, and most of all for always, and I mean always, having your door open for me. I can never thank you enough for all you have done for me. I love you all so, so much and will always remember our many meetings, trips, laughs, and memories together. Thank you for being so much more than just teachers. I'm one lucky girl to have y'all in my life.
Miss Birchmore, for 4 years, you were like my second mom. Coming into 9th grade, you saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. You pushed me to do my best and always steered me in the right direction. From the early morning trips and competitions or meetings to coming back late, you were always there to make sure everything went right and treated us all like your own. Thank you for always pushing me out of my comfort zone and doing everything you could to help me succeed. One day, I hope that I can be the agriculture teacher that you were to me. Mr. Penland, although I was never in your horticulture classes, we spent a lot of time together training for competitions and events. You drove us all around the state and always talked about hunting and fishing with us and laughed at all the jokes we made along the way. Thank you for always setting a good example and for being there to talk about the outdoors and anything else I ever needed. Over my 4 years in high school, you truly made a difference. Miss Birchmore and Mr. Penland, thank you both for making a positive difference in my life. Even after the school bell rung, your jobs never stopped. Thank y'all for all the laughs and memories and the many more to come.
Mrs. Jordan and Mrs. Gilson, I'm extremely thankful for your support throughout the past few years. I may never have been a student within your classroom, but you both were still my mentors and my advisors. Mrs. Gilson, the bond that I have with your Riverside students are unbreakable, and I will forever be grateful for all of our time together. And Mrs. Jordan, thank you for being compassionate and genuine, and always reminding me of my true potential. And lastly, Mr. Berry, thank you for being authentic and being a leader that I will always look up to. Your continuous support and eye for success is admirable. I couldn't imagine the past 5 years without you by my side. Thank you for being you. Thank you to all of you for being you. It doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you for the most amazing years of my life. Love forever, Sydney.
Killen, I met you my sophomore year in high school when you were our student teacher. I was in turf and lawn management, where you told us all about yourself and then ended with, I don't really like turf and lawn, so I'll be teaching wildlife with Attaway. I'm so thankful that this didn't end our time together. I know you have never officially been my teacher, but you have helped me in so many ways this year. Anytime I had a question or needed someone to talk to about my time of service, I knew I could always count on you to give me the best advice, and for that I'm forever thankful. Attaway, I got the privilege of being in your class my first year of high school. I didn't know what I had gotten myself into when you told me I'd be competing in Crete speaking. Although I thought you were crazy, you started my love for CDEs and LDEs and supported me in every single one that I did. I have always looked up to you as my role model. You have taught me that if I set my mind to it, anything is possible. Thank you for going with me to State Officer Candidate Summit and for taking me to Clemson when I was running for office. My journey in this blue jacket would not have been the same without you to always be there supporting me, challenging me, and being someone I could always count on to be more organized than Gibson. Gibson, it's no secret that you've had the biggest impact on me. You have always supported my crazy ideas and have always had faith that I could do anything I set my mind to. Thank you for all the laughs and lectures throughout my 3 years of classes with you. Thank you for always being someone I could talk to and for being someone who constantly challenged me to be the best person I could be. Thank you for being understanding and supportive with all of my ideas. Thank you for helping me to grow into the person I am today. I will never forget our adventures on the farm, lectures about doing things right, laughs about anything, and I will never forget you. I cannot thank all three of you enough for supporting and believing me and showing me everything that I was capable of within my high school career. Thank you all so much. I love you guys.
Thank you again for all that you have done throughout our FFA careers and all that you have done to impact our lives. You each hold a very special place in our hearts and a bond that will never be broken. From the bottom of our hearts, we would like to thank each of you. One of the highlights of our state convention each year is the recognition of the finalists in the state FFA STAR competitions. The 3 categories in this area are Star Farmer, Star in Agricultural Placement, and Star in Agribusiness. These awards are designed to recognize outstanding achievements in both career and leadership development through a supervised agricultural experience. A pin, plaque, and $1,200 are awarded to the state winners chapter to be used to attend National FFA Convention, an approved event, or a college scholarship. A pin and plaque will also be awarded to each regional winner. Tonight, we will recognize the region winners in each of the categories, as well as declare our state winner. I would now like to call to the podium our state president, Callie Cathcart.
The State Star Farmer highlights FFA members with a passion for production agriculture. The Star Farmer Award is sponsored by the South Carolina Advocates for Agriculture. Your Region 1 Star Farmer winner is Haley Campbell of the R.D. Anderson FFA Chapter. Your Region 2 Star Farmer winner is Christian Wilhelm from the Lawrence FFA Chapter. And the state winner is Christian Wilhelm of the Lawrence FFA Chapter.
Your 2020 South Carolina FFA Star Farmer is Christian Wilhelm from the Lawrence Chapter. Christian is the owner and operator of CW Farms, a diversified livestock enterprise in Honorary, South Carolina. Through this enterprise, she raises and trains show-quality horses, swine, and cattle. Christian pays special attention to feed rations when managing her animals. She mixes custom rations designed to provide a balanced nutritional diet and yield high-quality performance. Christian takes great pride in making her animals as show-ready as possible. She clips and fits her animals to give the best possible looks. Additionally, Christian works regularly with all of her animals to prepare them for the show ring. Christian has greatly improved on her own showmanship skills through her SAE project. She has learned how to best position her animals, as well as how to interact with judges and others in the show ring. Christian has gained a wealth of knowledge about the livestock industry through participation in showmanship events and her agricultural enterprise. She prides herself on knowing about her animals and providing high-quality care for all of them. Christian is an active member of the Lawrence FFA Chapter, where Mrs. Melanie Birchmore and Mr. Kyle Penland are her advisors. She has participated in a number of local and state CDEs and LDEs, including livestock, horse, and dairy cattle evaluation. Christian regularly volunteers in her community and is a member of Lawrence County Cattlemen's Association and her local 4-H. The 2020 Star Farmer Award winner, Christian Wilhelm.
The South Carolina State Star in Agribusiness is your Region 1 winner, Kelsey Bradshaw of the Crescent FFA Chapter. And now a presentation of Kelsey's Star in Agribusiness, SAE.
Your 2020 South Carolina FFA Star in Agribusiness Award winner is Kelsey Bradshaw from the Crescent Chapter. Kelsey is a farmhand for Oak Hill Angus Farm located in Iva, South Carolina. Oak Hill raises bulls for private sale across the state and works to ensure the production of top-quality animals to add value to customer herds. Kelsey manages feeding of the herd to maintain body condition and top performance. During her time at Oak Hill, Kelsey has worked hard to improve her skills at safely and efficiently operating equipment. She regularly uses farm equipment to move and put out feed, clear land, and relocate farm materials quickly. Kelsey pays close attention to even the smallest details at the farm. She checks feed bin levels on a regular basis to ensure that feed deliveries can be scheduled as efficiently as possible and maintain optimal operations on the farm. Through her SAE, Kelsey has gained a better understanding of cattle herd management, especially ruminant nutrition. This knowledge enables Kelsey to help maintain a healthy herd that produces high-quality cattle for customers. Kelsey is an active member of the Crescent FFA Chapter and Crescent Cattle Show Team. She is also a member of the American International Junior Charolais Association and South Carolina Junior Charolais Association. Her FFA advisors are Mrs. Caroline Snellings and Mr. Brantley Caldwell. The 2020 Star in Agribusiness Award winner, Kelsey Bradshaw.
I'm proud to present the Star in Agricultural Placement Award. Your Region 1 winner is Katie Shirley of the Pendleton FFA chapter. Your Region 2 winner is Caden Gates of the Nation Forward FFA chapter. Your Region 3 winner is Dakota Roberts of the Aner FFA chapter. Your Region 4 winner is Lee Pageant of the Pillion FFA chapter. On behalf of the South Carolina FFA Foundation, I am honored to introduce the 2020 State FFA Star in Agricultural Placement is Lee Pageant of the Pillion FFA chapter. And now a presentation recognizing the Star in Agricultural Placement.
Your 2020 South Carolina FFA Star in Agricultural Placement is Lee Pageant from the Pillion chapter. Lee is employed as a farmhand with Paget Farms located in Leesville, South Carolina. It is a diversified agricultural operation, and Lee is actively involved across all farm activities. Lee is responsible for tasks ranging from checking chicken houses to fertilizer and pesticide application to equipment maintenance. Lee has invested the income from his placement project to start a small swine enterprise. He has purchased and raised several litters of pigs for market sale. In addition to his work at Paget Farms and swine operation, Lee was an intern for the Center for Advanced Agribusiness Research at Pillion High School. As part of his duties there, Lee managed the center's research farm, maintaining plots of corn, peanuts, soybeans, cotton, and more for class demonstrations and chapter fundraising programs. Lee has had the opportunity to learn a number of skills through his SAE. He has learned how to effectively use emerging agricultural technologies to ensure more efficient farm operations. For example, Lee uses GPS navigation when spraying herbicides on fields, resulting in a more efficient and safer application. Lee is an active agriculturalist. He is a member of the Pillion Farmer and Agribusiness Association chapter and Lexington County Farm Bureau. He has purchased and restored multiple pieces of antique farm equipment for shows and parades. Lee is an active member of the Pillion FFA chapter, where Mr. Frank Stover and Mrs. Jessie Zieser are his advisors. He has been a member of state-winning wildlife and soil judging CDE teams, as well as a participant at numerous state and national FFA activities. The 2020 Star in Agricultural Placement Award winner, Lee Pageant.
We would like to thank Mr. Gore for arranging the slideshows for our STAR projects. Next, I would like to introduce Morgan Gunter, Lance Brown, and Tristan Nisbet for a very special introduction.
Hey everyone, we wish we could be doing this in person. However, we're still here today to introduce someone very special to us. Today we have the opportunity to introduce Cooper as he gives his retiring address. Cooper has been an active member of the FFA for a little more than 5 years and a part of agriculture his whole life. I watched Cooper grow from making me get our bikes out of the pasture because the cows got too close to having and raising his own cattle. He has definitely made us all proud.
Me and Cooper have been best friends since 5th grade. Now, when you go from fresh from 5th grade to now being a freshman in college, you go through so many things. And when a funny story came for me and Cooper was one day we came to put out hay, and it was in the water buffalo pasture. Now we have electric fence going around all of our pastures. And Cooper's on the ground opening the gates, I'm on the tractor pulling the tractor through. Cooper goes to the gate, he tries to open, he says it shocks him. I'm like, no it didn't, try it again. Cooper goes over there, tries it again, shocks him again. And I'm on the tractor getting frustrated. I'm like, man, you're useless, you ain't good for nothing. So I get off the tractor thinking I'm all big and bad. I go to the fence, grab the fence or gate, and it shocks the living mess out of me. And I tried again, I was like, Cooper, give me your rubber case on your phone to try to grab this chain. Well, try grabbing the chain, couldn't get it because there was too much tension on the gate. Well, Cooper comes, I tell him, Cooper, stop being useless and come over here and help me open this gate. I say, pull it to me and stop being useless. Well, he pulls it to me, but he's so mad he yanks it. And I'm down low and he uses that gate and that gate slams against my head. So I stand up and I just knock the living crap out of Cooper. Now, yeah, we don't seem like friends after I tell you that, but this shows you that me and Cooper go through so many things and we've stuck together through it all. And I'm greatly appreciative of Cooper Brown and just can't wait to see the other memories we are able to accomplish together.
Cooper's experience in this organization is something that he will remember his whole life. He is one of my biggest role models in the FFA, and also the best brother anybody can ask for. When I was younger, I got ran over by a cow, and instead of Cooper coming and helping me, he ran to the gator and hid under the seat because he was too scared to come help me because the cow was obviously crazy. With that being said, we would like to introduce to you my brother,
my cousin,
my best friend,
Cooper Brown, South Carolina State Vice President.
How many of you have any strange hobbies? I love watching graduation speeches, listening to retiring addresses, posting song lyrics on Facebook, and listening to my celebrity crush, Steve Harvey. But my favorite thing to do is Google motivational quotes. A few of my favorite quotes are, "Faith, hope, and love are some good things He gave us, but the greatest is love." Or, "Be a Fruit Loop in a world full of Cheerios." But one quote that really sticks out to me is "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." I might not know why things happen the way they do, but we will go through hard times and challenges in our life. But if we press forward and we keep our faith strong with God, we can get through anything, anytime. Let me tell you a story. One time, my agriculture teacher, Mr. Busby, my friend Gage, and myself went to the Everglades of Florida to paddle 60 miles on the Suwannee River. That day, we drove 5 hours to get to where we were going to start. We packed up all of our clothes, our food, everything we needed to survive for the next week into our boats. As we started out our trek, we got about 6 miles and we seen a creek go to the side. Mr. Busby said, "I've got to go in there." So Mr. Busby went in there and I followed. What we didn't know was that the water was rushing really fast and Mr. Busby's canoe got pinned between two rocks. As they got pinned between two rocks, the canoe flipped over and Mr. Busby came out and all of his belongings started flowing down the river. He was hollering at me, "Cooper, can you grab my stuff?" But if I would get out my canoe, all my stuff would be gone too. We were hollering at her friend Gage, "Gage, can you grab our stuff?" But he could not hear us. Eventually, I got out to the big river and I got with Gage. We actually fell out of our kayaks. As I was floating down this fast river, I could only think of two things. Stay calm, because if I freaked out, my friend Gage would too, and get to the riverbank. About 5 minutes later, we finally got to the side of the riverbank, but we realized that Mr. Busby was nowhere to be found. We were in the middle of Florida, and we had no idea where our agriculture teacher was. We sat there and thought, what do we do? We eventually started screaming, "Mr. Busby! Mr. Busby!" but we didn't hear nothing. We actually started walking towards the area he was, but he was on the opposite side of a river that is 50 foot wide. Eventually, we seen Mr. Busby. He was drenching in water. He had water all over him. We realized that he had to swim across this river to get to us. We got our canoes and kayaks, we got our paddles, and we started back on the river. As we were paddling, we would find a bottle of water here, some food here, some clothes here. But then we started talking about how times could have been a whole lot worse than they were. We talked about how God kept us safe, how Mr. Busby had to persevere and swim across a river that was filled with alligators, snakes, and so many other animals that could hurt him. We went on to paddle the other 54 miles on the river and we had a lot of fun. Luckily, we did not have another incident like that, but we had a lot of fun and I was so happy to get back in South Carolina. You know what else makes me happy? Clemson football. Growing up, Mom, Dad, Lance, and myself would go to a few football games a year. When the game would finish up and we would go to the hotel or to the house, I would try to remember all the good plays, the touchdowns, the interceptions, the field goals. But I always know there's one game that I will never forget. It was October the 3rd, 2015. Clemson was playing the University of Notre Dame. It rained and rained and rained. That was the game Dabo Swinney was like, bring your own guts. During the game, I kept realizing how Dad would walk and go talk on the phone. Like every 15 minutes, he would leave our seats and go talk on his phone. I was 14 years old. I was so into the game, I didn't really pay much attention. Clemson ended up going to the football game, and that night, we went to the hotel room, went to bed, and woke up that next morning and went back to Wagner. As we were going home, it rained and rained and rained. But as we got back to Wagner, there were so many houses without power. There were so many trees going across the road. We heard of so many pond dams that blowed out. But what really hit home for me is that we lost 500 acres of cotton and corn. Everything that my dad, my grandfather, myself, all of our ancestors have ever worked for, gone. I was 14 years old at the time, and my brother was 8. At that time, my dad was a full-time farmer, and my mother was a clerk for the town of Sally. We did not know what all they went through to make sure there was food on the table, but now, as we gotten older, we started to realize everything they had to go through. I remember in 2016, we didn't plant any crops. We were financially stable, but I remember my dad telling me, son, we will get back to where we were. In 2017, we planted under 100 acres. We planted 50 acres of cotton and 50 acres of corn. That year, we harvested all of our cotton, and we actually started rebuilding our chicken houses to produce broilers for Amick Farms. That year, our corn crop was once again ruined by wind and rain. In 2018, we planted 50 acres of cotton, 50 acres of corn, and we also cut, raked, and baled 100 acres of hay. We were able to successfully harvest all of our crops that year. And then 2019 came along. It was our turning point. We planted 50 acres of cotton, 50 acres of corn. We even became more diverse and planted 50 acres of peanuts. That year, we cut, raked, and baled over 350 acres of hay, and we sold that hay to a lot of horse farmers. To end that year, we ended up purchasing an 18-wheeler to haul our crops, our farm equipment more safely and more efficiently. You may be wondering why I'm telling you all this, but do you remember that quote I told you? Believe you can, and you're halfway there. There were so many times we could have laid down, we could have quit, we could have lost our faith, but we pressed forward. South Carolina FFA, no matter what you are going through life, no matter how hard it gets, no matter if you get a flat tire, no matter how hard the rain is coming down, please, South Carolina FFA, just press forward.
Cooper, thank you for always putting a smile on our faces. Your love for FFA runs as deep as your love for the Statler brothers. You never fail to put a smile on our face, from telling us stories from anything about your cat Maddie to stories about ranching. Love always, Jake, Kylie, Sydney, Virginia, and Matt. South Carolina FFA, your state vice president, Cooper Brown. The Honorary State FFA degree is the highest degree our association can bestow upon supporters of the FFA. This award is presented to farmers, school superintendents, principals, members of a board of education, chapter advisors, teachers, agriculture education staff members, business leaders, and others who are helping to advance agriculture education and the FFA. It is now time to recognize those who have achieved this degree. Madam Secretary, would you please announce those individuals receiving this honor?
Members and guests, I am pleased to read the following names. Dr. Keith Belli, Dean of the College of Agriculture, Forestry, and Life Sciences. Blake Berry, Agricultural Educator and FFA Advisor at Pendleton High School. Dr. Preston Bird, Agricultural Education Professor at Clemson University. Chad Cox, Battery Creek High School Principal. Jonathan Croft, Agriculture Extension Agent. Richard Crumley, Loris High School Principal. Dr. Kathy DiBendetto, Agricultural Education Professor at Clemson University. Joe Gleason, Agricultural Educator and FFA Advisor at Lakeview High School. Jason Gore, South Carolina Agriculture Education State Staff. Representative David Hyatt, Chairman of the House Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Environmental Affairs Committee. Kristen Jacobs, Agricultural Educator and FFA Advisor at Conway High School. Tana Lee, Director of Career and Technical Education for Richland 1 School District. Kinsey Long, Assistant Principal of Buford High School. Ann Brooke Mayfield, owner of Buttercream Caters and Catering at the South Carolina FFA Leadership Center. Beth Ann Melton, Agricultural Educator and FFA Advisor at Battery Creek High School. Shantae Miller, Principal of Andrew Jackson High School. Boone Peeler, State Executive Director of Farm Servants Agency. Jeannie Phillips, Agricultural Educator and FFA Advisor at R.D. Anderson. Kevin Socks, Agricultural Educator and FFA Advisor at Center for Advanced Technical Studies. Devin Turner, Soil Scientist with NRCS. Thad Wimberly, President of the South Carolina Farmer and Agribusiness Association. Representative Brian White, House Representative for Anderson District 6. Representative Richie Yao, House Representative for Chesterfield District 53.
On behalf of every FFA member, I wish to say we are proud to have you as honorary members. May this affiliation prove valuable to all. The honorary state degree recipients will be recognized at the banquet this summer in Columbia.
Hey y'all, I'm Kourtney Lehman, your National FFA Secretary. I'm so bummed that we can't be in person for this presentation, but what's important is that we're all healthy right now. Like many of you, I'm at home with a lot more free time on my hands. One of my favorite things to do lately has been hanging out in my room and jamming out to a killer Spotify playlist. The other day I was in there listening to music and one of my all-time favorite songs came on. That one that goes, L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. Anyway, y'all don't need to listen to me sing. But I was listening to this song that's all about love. And of course, I started thinking about love. It's like those moments where you start with a really simple topic and next thing you know, you're deep down in the rabbit hole investigating so many questions. Like you Google the Hydro Flask and then next thing you know, you spend hours investigating the evolution of the Visco Girl. That's what I was doing. As I'm pondering all of these deep questions about love, I came to one very important conclusion. Love is weird. Seriously, think about it. It's this thing that we all talk about and we all hear about, but it's so confusing. How many of us have ever been confused by love? I can't be the only one, right? I think the problem is we see love as this complicated notion. We're so quick to jump to the mushy-gushy phenomenon we see in a Nicholas Sparks movie. Don't get me wrong, I am always down to watch a good chick flick. But love is so much more than dancing in the rain or falling into the arms of a tall, handsome stranger. If this is our definition of love, totally cool. But today, we're talking about a different kind of love. We all have our own definitions of what love looks like and feels like. For me, love is a lot like the first bite of a crunchy piece of bacon in the morning. And for some of you, it might feel a little different. But if we look up the word love in the dictionary, we'll find one of many definitions that reads something like this: the loyal, unselfish concern for the good of another. Let me say that again. The loyal, unselfish concern for the good of another. Notice, nowhere in there does it talk about candlelit dinners or romantic proposals. This is the kind of love we're talking about today. Not the roses and chocolates, touchy-feely kind of love, but rather the genuine concern for the well-being of someone or something. The kind of love a soldier feels for their country, knowing that their sacrifice leads to the safety of another. The kind of love our dog feels for us when we get home, even though we left them alone all day. and the kind of love so many of us feel for this blue jacket, knowing the impact it has and will continue to have on our lives. I've had a lot of people in my life show me this kind of love, but none more than my grandparents. Honestly, not just my grandparents, but all of the elderly people in my life. And when we say elderly, we're talking old, like old, like walkers with tennis balls, hearing aids cranked, and still never know what we're saying kind of old. The elderly people in my life have helped me realize love isn't that complicated. In fact, to love like a grandma is relatively simple because there are little things we can do that will make a huge impact on others' lives. When I was in kindergarten, my parents told me that my family would be moving to Oregon, and kindergarten Kourtney did not take it well. She had a life figured out. She was the teacher's favorite, had lots of friends, and most importantly, her crush finally knew her first name. And now what? We had to move to Oregon? Thankfully, within the first few days of getting there, I realized I now had the coolest neighbors ever, Floyd and Betty Duncan. All I ever wanted to do was go hang out with Floyd and Betty. And it's not because they had this big fancy house, the newest toys, or the best snacks, which is usually what gets me to hang out with people. The reason I wanted to spend all of my time with Floyd and Betty was relatively simple. They were the cutest elderly couple I had ever seen. We're talking picture-perfect elderly folks. Big round glasses, rosy cheeks, and always smelled like peppermint. Seriously, y'all, if we took the old man from Up and he started dating Moana's grandma, they wouldn't even begin to compare with how cute Floyd and Betty were. My family spent a lot of time with Floyd and Betty. Our favorite thing to do was watch Boise State football games. Now let me preface this. My family has been Boise State fans since before I was born. We practically bleed blue and orange in my house. But Floyd and Betty had probably never even heard of Boise State when we moved in. In fact, Betty barely knew what a touchdown was, so I'm pretty sure she didn't know who Boise State was. But regardless, every time there was a game on, they'd come over with a plate of cookies and a pack of root beer, ready to watch. I always wondered why they'd do this, why they would willingly spend all of our time together doing things that just my family liked, and never expecting us to enter their world. Could you imagine if every time we hung out with our friends, we only did things that they liked? How miserable would that be? But that's exactly what Floyd and Betty did. Why? Because they were suddenly as obsessed with Boise State as we were? Probably not. You see, Floyd and Betty loved our family so much that they took an interest in our interests. They took an interest in our interests. And the craziest part, they never expected us to return the favor. What if we all did this? What if we showed others how much we care by taking a genuine interest in the things they're passionate about? Here's a great example. Since I was a little girl, my grandparents have always, and I mean always, shown up with a package of Oreos, double stuffed Oreos to be exact, whenever they're going to see me. It doesn't matter if we're meeting at my house, their house, a basketball game, a wedding. Seriously, y'all, it's happened at a wedding. There will undoubtedly be an exchange of double stuffed Oreos. And it's not because my grandparents are obsessed with the snacks. It's because I am. Every single time they see me, they reminded me I'm loved by simply taking an interest in my favorite snack. A little way to love like a grandma is to learn about what others love. When we do this, we remind them that we don't just care about them on a surface level, but we want to understand all of the little things that make them who they are. The first way to love like a grandma is to take an interest in others' interests. Floyd and Betty may have taught us to take an interest in others' interests, but this is only step one in learning to love like a grandma. Let's think back to when we were little kids. How many of us were troublemakers back in the day? Let's do a quick survey. If we answer yes to any of the following questions, we were definitely a troublemaker. Did I ever lock my siblings out of the house? Did I ever break a lamp, a window, or any household item? Did I ever pretend to cry to get my siblings in trouble? I was definitely the queen of that one. Did I ever draw on the walls in permanent marker? Did I ever cut someone's hair at daycare? I hope I'm not the only one that said yes to that. If we said yes to any of these questions, we were definitely a troublemaker back in the day. Some of us might still be, but my uncle was the king of chaos when he was little. He always knew how to find his way into trouble. One summer afternoon, my grandpa was out in the yard working on some farm equipment, and my grandma stood close by keeping an eye on their two boys who were playing in the yard, my uncle and my dad, both of whom were under the age of 5. My grandpa was working on a swather on some parts that had been broken earlier that week. By the way, just in case we don't know, a swather is a piece of farm equipment with blades out front that we use to cut down hay. So anyway, my grandpa's lying underneath the swather, and he realizes he needs a tool that he doesn't have. So rather than crawling all the way out from underneath the swather and going to get the tool, he decides to just ask my grandma for help. Remember, Grandma is keeping a close eye on the boys in the yard. So when Grandpa asks her for help, she takes one last look at the boys just to make sure they're out of harm's way before going as quickly as possible to grab the tool. The moment she turns her back, my uncle, sensing a window of opportunity, climbs the swather steps, plops down in the seat, and proceeds to press every button and pull every lever in sight. Now, some of us may have not been around farm equipment very much, but imagine lying underneath your car and a 5-year-old crawls inside and starts playing with every button and pulling every lever. How do we feel? Probably not safe. Thankfully, my grandma had already been blessed with the secret mom power of having eyes in the back of her head, so she whipped around and told my uncle to get down from the tractor. Like many of us used to do, and some of us may still do, he rolled his eyes, threw his arms down, but nevertheless proceeded to get out of the tractor. Crisis avoided. But just as he was turning to get out, his boot bumped a lever. It just so happened to be the lever responsible for raising and lowering the tractor head. Within seconds, that quickly, my grandpa was crushed beneath the weight of thousands of pounds of metal. My grandma had no idea what to do. She didn't want to press the wrong button and make it worse. There was no one around to help, and she was panicking. She started weighing her options. I know many of us have never been in this exact situation, but a lot of us have had to watch someone we care about struggle. We know the helplessness and the worry that consumes us in those moments. I imagine this is partly how my grandma had to have felt. Helpless, worried, anxious, and stressed. But even with all of that going on, my grandma did something incredible. Weighing a maximum 130 pounds and standing a generous 5 feet tall, my grandma bent over and started trying to lift the weight of the swather. Now, how in the heck this little woman thought she was going to lift thousands of pounds of metal, I have no idea. But there she was, pulling and tugging and using all of her weight to make the swather head move. And slowly but surely, the weight started to budge. She kept lifting and lifting and lifting, and finally, she was able to lift the swather head several inches off the ground, just enough for my grandpa to crawl out from underneath. He was okay. He had minor injuries, some bumps and bruises, but he was fine because of what she had just done. Ladies, if that's not a prime example of a strong, independent woman, I don't know what is. I keep picturing my grandma lifting the weight of the swather head. And it makes me think about the other kind of weights we lift in life. Not the physical weights, but the kind of weights that we carry on our shoulder. Anxiety, depression, insecurity, problems at home, and so much more. In this moment, my grandma was lifting a physical weight, but we're all capable of helping to lift the other weight that others are carrying. A little way to love is to be strong enough to help others and help lift the weight they're carrying on their shoulders. Now, this doesn't mean literally lifting thousands of pounds of metal off someone. There are so many small things we can do that will make a huge impact on someone's life. Whether it's reaching out to that friend who's struggling at home, taking time to write thank yous to essential workers, or making masks to send to others, or maybe even just dropping cookies off at someone's house who's stuck alone right now. There's a lot of things that we can do to help lift the weight others are carrying right now during this worldwide pandemic crazy situation. A little way to love is to be strong enough to help others when they need it. Now, at this point, we've learned 2 ways to love like a grandma. First, take an interest in others' interests. And second, help lift the weight others are carrying. That's great. But what does this actually look like? Let me tell you one last story about my grandpa. My grandpa has been a bus driver for years, and with that, he's gained some crazy stories to share at the dinner table. If any of us have ever ridden the bus to school, we know some weird things happen on the bus. And because of that, I love nothing more than listening to my grandpa's wild adventures. Of all the stories he has to tell, none are more entertaining than the ones featuring a boy named Victor. Now, my grandpa picked up Victor on his bus route every morning for many years, and every single day, it was a new adventure. One morning, my grandpa went to pick up Victor, waiting to see what would unfold this day. As he pulled up to the stop, he took a deep breath and opened the door. Now, my favorite thing about little kids is we can always tell what they're thinking just by their facial expressions, and Victor is no exception. My grandpa looked down from his seat to see Victor wearing one of those smiles that only a man with a plan can have. Victor stomped up the steps, plopped down in his seat, and waited for the bus to start. Now, let me preface this. Victor is in the seat right behind the bus driver, which anyone that rides the bus knows that this seat is reserved for the worst of troublemakers. So once Victor sits in his seat, my grandpa takes a deep breath and starts to drive. Never in a million years would he guess what Victor was going to do today. He starts driving, and at first, everything seems normal. He starts to think, maybe today will be the day. Maybe this will be the ride where Victor finally behaves. But just as he starts having these thoughts, the chaos ignites. Victor jumps up in his seat, grabs my grandpa's seatbelt above his shoulder and beneath his chest on the left side, then proceeds to prop his feet up against the seat and pull back with all of his weight. Meanwhile, my grandpa is somehow managing to safely pull the bus over while also maintaining control of his temper and his arms, which Victor is trying to trap beneath the seatbelt. Basically, this looks like the scene out of a cartoon. Now, I imagine as my grandpa was being choked out by a second grader, his first thought wasn't, how can I love this child? But guess what? That's exactly what he did. Every day, my grandpa found little ways to love Victor. He took an interest in Victor by asking about the characters on his backpack, by asking about his family and remembering his name. He lifted the weight Victor was carrying by being a constant presence in his life. No one would have blamed my grandpa if he decided to kick Victor off the bus, but he didn't. He continued to let him get on day after day, adventure after adventure. And because of this, my grandpa changed Victor's life, even if it was only for the time that Victor was on the bus. Eventually, Victor's behavior improved. He stopped trying to choke out the bus driver, and he no longer had to sit in the seat right behind the bus driver. How many of us have a Victor in our life? Not someone that tries to choke us out on the bus, but rather someone who drives us crazy and constantly tests our patience. We all do, right? Some of your ag teachers might just be picturing some of you. But because we all have that person, we all have a choice to find little ways to love them, or a choice to kick them out of our lives and say, see you later. If we do it right, we get to be like Floyd and Betty, and we get to take an interest in others' interests. We can be like my grandma, and we can help lift the weight others are carrying. And if all goes well, we get to be like my grandpa. We get to make a huge impact on someone else's life. It's time to take the complexity out of the notion of love and keep it simple. It's time to love like a grandma. Thanks y'all so much for listening.
Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom with our FFA members. We are delighted that you could join us for the 93rd South Carolina FFA State Convention. We wish you a wonderful rest of your year, and we are excited to see you at National Convention. At this time, I would now like to turn over the podium to our state president, Ms. Kylie Cathcart.
Madam Secretary, do you have a record of any further business which should now be transacted?
I have none, Madam President.
Does any member know of any new or unfinished business which should properly become before this session? We are about to adjourn this session of the 93rd South Carolina FFA State Convention. As we mingle with others, let us be diligent in labor, just in our dealings, courteous to others, and above all, honest and fair in the game of life. Fellow members and guests, please join me in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I now declare this session adjourned.